The fight for civil rights in Marion, Walter and Flossie Bailey. The history of Marion, Indiana is rich with heroes whose legacies are not carved on monuments, but etched into the hearts of all generations. Walter and Flossie Bailey were a black couple in the 1920s. He was an educated man, a respected physician. She was a poised and elegant speaker, but they did not enjoy the rewards of their success in the same manner as most of their peers. It was a bizarre period in American history in which African Americans were free to obtain an education and engage in commercial pursuits. Yet regardless of their accomplishments, they were denied entrance into clubs and businesses. They could not use the same public facilities as their white neighbors. They attended separate schools and churches. Segregation was a way of life. The separation of the races was built into the daily routine as though it were as natural as the rising and setting of the sun. But the immorality of racial discrimination could not be denied forever. Walter and Flossie Bailey were among those who refused to accept it. The Baileys filed a lawsuit against a local movie theater for denying them entrance. Despite losing their case, they continued to speak out against hospital and school segregation. Then on August 7, 1930, a horror of horrors occurred in Marion. 2 black teenage boys arrested for murder and rape were lynched by an angry mob that ruled the streets that night. The air was charged with tension. Walter and Flossie, as vocal advocates for civil rights, were harassed by the gangs. As the president of the Indiana chapter of the NAACP, Flossie was at particularly high risk.
I can't begin to express the fear I felt during those awful days. Armed policemen had to escort my husband and his nursing staff to his medical office each day. I made telephone calls and I sent telegrams trying to get additional police protection at the jail. My phone rang constantly with people making death threats against me, and people would drive past my home while deliberately backfiring their cars. Can you imagine? Despite their best efforts, I refused to be intimidated.
The tragedy of that August night inspired Flossie to work for a tougher anti-lynching law in Indiana. Her efforts resulted in a tough new bill passed on March 1931. When we see children of all races together on the playground at school, when doors throughout the community are open to all people, we see the presence of Flossie Bailey.